The other day, we added this campground extension with the retaining wall and also arched tunnel for the train, but we didn't blend it in. So that's the first thing we're going to take care of today. In addition to fixing up all of this rock work here and creating our new hills, we're also going to be test fitting some of these modules in the city because I think it's about time that we do a test fit. And I also want to get the train running because when we test fit certain modules, we're going to be able to get the train running underneath the newly expanded area in the campground there. So that is pretty exciting. So the first thing we're doing is ripping out some of the existing rock work because we sort of built ourselves into a corner there. And you can see Mrs. Bricksie is starting to work on some of the green hill. So that area up there, that's sort of like a U shape, is going to be all green hill. So I decided to put some subflooring in. And what I do with the subflooring is I bring it up like 3 or 2 or 4 bricks, whatever it may be, and I top that with 2 plates, and then I put a green plate on top, whether that be 4x8 or 4x4, and I pretty much make a Mills plate subfloor. And the reason I do the stacks of bricks topped with 2 plates, and then I put the plate on top, is because then I'm at an even brick height. So then when you build the staircase effect of brick in front of that, it actually matches up with the height. If you do it another way, it can lead to like 1 plate misalignments, which doesn't really look that good. So Mrs. Bricksie's working on the U there, and I decided to work on the like cliff edge that transitions into the green hill, and that connects to the top of the U there, and eventually wraps around and connects to Mrs. Bricksie's hill work. Now I'm going to transition down by the tunnel. I lowered that 16x16 plate, the green one there, and I'm starting to build the rock formation around that, using some of the rock panels and also a bunch of bricks. I want to try and make that corner look natural, so I decided to remove one of the rock panels, rebuild it with more brick, and then of course it sort of looks Minecraftish right now, but we're going to add a bunch of details. Now that I got the bottom of it done, it's time to transition up to the higher part there. It's nice having that 16x16 panel a little bit lower because then I can build on top of that, nice solid ground. Build up from there, meeting up with the higher sections of the campground. We also have to swap out some of the arches on the platform covering because they were reddish brown, but we have the light bluish gray ones in stock. Now that all the rock work and sort of Minecraft hill work is done, it's time to add a whole bunch of detail to it. Just trying to get rid of those hard edges and the sort of staircase looking Lego by using slopes, cheese slopes, some minor vegetation at this point, and then also some wedge plates and all that. Now to the right of the tunnel there's a little gap that's open. I wasn't sure if that was going to be rocks or if that was going to be an extension of the retaining wall. I went with extension of the retaining wall. I just think it makes more sense. And once I build that up to the proper height, I'm able to connect all the modules together, that being the rocks, the tunnel, and the retaining wall, and then add some final details in this area. And there you go. It's all done. Looking way better. That is awesome. That used to be all exposed, right? We've got the little flat spot there too. Glad that we lowered that 16x16 panel. So now we've got like grass and also cliffs, and the cliffs sort of transition into green. We have like a little hill right there. Did some blending on the hill with the G slopes and 1x2 slopes as well. This cliff was all rebuilt. Transitions into the other little green hill over here that has sort of like a curve in it. I think that's going to be nice. Eventually we're going to make campsites over here, and there's going to be trails and everything. That's why I didn't want to get too carried away with adding too much detail, because if we add too much detail right now, when we add a trail or a campground, or sorry, a campsite or whatever it may be, we're going to have to rip that detail out. So there's no sense in getting too far ahead of ourselves with the details. But it is nice that we were able to add the details like within the cliff. Just some miscellaneous wedge plates right here, and I'm glad that I was able to add those wedge plates up here because it actually tacked all of this together. So the little the extension of the platform covering is now tacked down to the module for the tunnel, which is also tacked down to the rock work over here. And of course, this is a separate module from this here. There's been a lot of comments saying, hey, what you need to do is actually leave some of these arches open so that you can see the train pass through. It's funny, Mrs. Bricksie swapped out the arches there. She's like, hey, we actually have those now, so you can swap them out from the reddish brown that you're using to the light bluish gray, so it matches. And after she did that, I was like, oh, wait a minute. I wanted to remove a couple of these. But I don't know yet. We'll probably do that so you can see the train pass through. I think it's more realistic not to have that, but it is what it is. Some people are also saying that maybe I need to change the style of the platform covering so that it doesn't match the others, but there's literally another one built just like this right here, so I think the style of them had to match. Now, in regards to the train track, I mentioned it in my previous video, I need to ballast another curve. I've got good news on that, but there's also some concern about my train tunnel. There's somebody who's saying that you didn't build it wide enough, the train is going to hit, but I did build it wide enough. I did confirm that the train can pass through both ways, and the nose of the train does not collide with the tunnel wall. And I also did confirm that my ballast curves, using the L gauge standard, will fit within the tunnel as well. So yeah, that's excellent. So I've got good news. I was talking about the curve, and I was like, no, I've got to ballast more track, oh no. And I was like, I knew I had some ballast track somewhere, because typically when I ballast curved tracks, I'm like, I don't want to take those apart. A lot of pieces, a lot of labor goes into that. I don't want to take it apart. I was digging through the bins of train track. I was like, where is it? Where is it? I can't find it. And then I asked Mrs. Bricksie, I'm like, where did we put this? She's like, well, right here, tucked up against one of these cabinets, was not only a piece of ballast track missing, the 1x1 tiles, because we're out of those, but also the plate with all the tile work done. You can see how many parts goes into it and why you wouldn't want to destroy something like this. So the next thing I need to do is just take my ballast curve, which is done with the L gauge standard. If you want to see how to build these, I've got plenty of videos on it, or you can just go to l-gauge.org to check out their website to download your free instructions on how to build those. Very part intensive though. You can just use the Trix Bricks ballast plates. It'll save you a bunch of time, save you a bunch of parts, and actually save you a bunch of money as well. But now I need to transfer all those tiles here so that it accommodates this curve. The other day when I was working on the train track, I moved the switch and I didn't rebuild the straight because I switched the position of it. So in addition to doing that, I also fixed up the straights there, so that's good. It should reconnect in the city now. And you can see I put the ballast curve in there and I fixed up all the underlaying tiles and plates and studs and all that. And I also tacked it down right there. Now, when the train passes through the tunnel, there's going to be train track proceeding through. So I'm going to have to create a bunch of ballast straights so that when you look through the tunnel, it looks ballast as well. I think that just makes sense. Now, it actually wasn't a direct transfer because this was a full curve, like 90 degrees, and this is coming off a switch. So it's a little bit strange, and the angle was different. So there you go. That is the underlaying tile pattern, just sort of off the top of my head. I could throw some more studs and details around on the dark gray. And of course, we're going to do that in the future when we further detail this area. But you know what I want to do? I want to take a look at everything together on the floor over there beyond my coffee. And then we'll connect the city lines and we'll get that train ripping so we can test this tunnel and circuit. Now, the other day when I started working on the expansion for the campground, I actually took a before picture, but I decided not to use it because the rock work wasn't done. But here's that picture now. So that's before and after. So I think this looks a lot better. Yeah, I'm thrilled. It's coming along nicely. We're almost done what I would call the base construction, and then we can move on to details. But we still have to texture the gravel road using thousands and thousands of pieces because it's not just going to be straight up reddish brown. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but the reason we've left this open like that is because this gravel road is going to branch this way. That's going to be a T intersection, and this is going to go toward like the Winter Village and everything. So there's no point in detailing this when we know there's a gravel road coming through here at some point, but we don't know exactly where that's going to flow. So may as well just leave it as an open canvas for now. And then once again, all these details here have got to be added to the rocks and the dark bluish gray plate, the green plate, everything like that. But wow, that is a pretty sweet expansion. Okay, let's go rip a train. It's curious to think that this is how I spend my Star Wars Day. Well, technically it's not Star Wars Day. It's only May 1st. May 4th is Star Wars Day. So No, maybe it's not that funny. But we did get back from the Lego store today, earlier today, like way earlier. We picked up all this stuff. Maybe on May the 4th, I'll build that Star Destroyer. That's going to be good. But you know, when I usually build giant modules like this, or I'm building things upstairs here, I typically bring them down and I place them in the Lego City quite frequently. Generally, like at the end of each day, maybe every other day, I'll come test fit it. Like when we were building the zoo, for example, I built a giant section, and then at the end of the video, I would go place it. And people would be like, why do you always do that? Like you just burn so much energy placing it, bringing it downstairs, bringing it back upstairs, placing it. Oh, why are you always doing that? You're just doing it for the video. It's like, no, I do that because sometimes it's hard to visualize these massive modules when they're up there. It's hard to visualize what they're going to look like when they're down here. So you can make mistakes if you don't constantly test fit it, or if you just go on autopilot and just keep building and building and building and building like myself. The mistake I made isn't huge, but there's actually two of them. So this is the extension for the residential area here. You can see the platform coverings need their arches swapped, but they match the platform covering that I just built. However, the platform covering that I built is a little bit shorter for the campground, but that's no problem because we're going to be able to merge it. Now this one is going to sit right here, but it currently can't sit there because, yeah, I forgot, like I only need to build 3.5 base plates worth of Lego for the platform covering. And I proceeded to build a whole nother base plate. I went 4.5 base plates long, but it's going to be very easy just to rip this out and put supports in there. And when I do that, I'll be able to make the change of having a couple visible arches so that you can see the train pass through, because I do agree that that would be a super cool idea. And believe me, ripping this apart is going to take 1/10 as long as it did to build. But luckily, I mean, it's just 32 studs that I overbuilt. I guess I could technically just leave it there, but these arches would have to be removed because they collide with the other one. No, I'm not going to leave it there. I'm going to modify it. So this end needs to come to here, but that arch actually might collide with the other arch over there. So I'm going to have to do something funky, but I can't even test fit it. So I'm glad that we're doing this. Now also, I put an 8-stud extension in yesterday right there. So this is actually in the middle of 2 tracks, that being the switch. Also, you can see I added some 1x1s. I just salvaged them from the tracks down there. Not all of them though, because they don't go into the curves. But when I did that, it brought this track over from this edge here, 8 studs. And this used to line up, like this track used to line up with my other tunnel, which is way down there. But that one didn't move over 8 studs. So my tracks are now misaligned. And I'm just thinking about it now. I aligned them using Flexi track because when I tried to use straight track, it was off by 6 studs or 2 studs. And the Trix Bricks ones that I have are only 8 studs, and the Flexi tracks are 4 studs, so I couldn't bridge the gap. But maybe if I use curve tracks, like 2 curve tracks, I can align it and it'll work. I gotta test that. Why didn't I test that? I don't know. It's at the end of a long day because we were at the Lego store this morning. I made that video. Then I made this video. I need to go home. So I'm gonna go home and we're gonna test this tomorrow, and I'm gonna try and put the 2 curves in. But for right now, I removed this panel, which is like a nice little access point that I put in there for this very purpose. Boop, pop that out so we can gain access to the train track. And I put like this weird S-curve of flex track. But if I just replace that with 2 curves, I think it'll align it. I don't know how far 2 curves moves over. I think it's the right math. I guess I'll figure that out in the morning. But yeah, it does connect and we could run the train. But this is going to be a bumpy ride. Take it away, Ern. No, Ern, do not take it away. You just stay in your night bus, bro. Okay, I'm gonna have a look at that tomorrow. I gotta get out of here. All right, the high-speed passenger train currently has the high ground. The cool thing about the high-speed passenger train is it can go either way. But I did flick the switch over here. And of course, by our newly installed train track, so it's going to take that switch and go the other way. through the tunnel. It's an exciting time. We're testing a new circuit for the very first time. Through the tunnel, and here it comes out the other side. So yeah, the 2 curves with a 4 stud segment in between actually made up for the 8 stud misalignment, and it matched up perfectly with that 2 stud differential that I was talking about. So it's just perfect. So you can see it just right there. Takes a little double turn and then proceeds through the tunnel. The train is definitely going a little bit too quick right now. Wanted to give it a high speed test through the switch. There's no problem navigating that. It's a little rough on the double turn there though, but it doesn't derail, so that's good. I just put some bricks and plates under here to make up for the height difference, because of course our ballast track is lifted up itself and then it sits on a mills plate, and there's no base plate there at all. So I had to make up the height difference from way up here down to the table surface. Now what I want to do eventually is actually frame the entire tunnel with brick or plate or something. And I also want to ballast all of this track. So when you look through, you see ballast track, and it actually has sidewalls. I think that would be cool. Obviously using masonry brick and brick like this would be the best effect for that. But you can also use like plates on their side, maybe like 16 by 16 plates, and you bracket mount them, and you can create a tunnel sort of look all the way through. And yeah, I definitely need to open up some of these arches, because it would be really neat to see this train fly through there. So once again, another nice thing about the high-speed passenger train is we can just throw it in reverse, and it looks like it's going forward. So that's why it doesn't matter if we have switches in different directions. For example, the train yard switches are different than the switch that we installed earlier in this video and that we're testing right now. It's not a big deal. It can go either way. However, with that said, now the drive wheels are on the back of the train. They do operate more efficiently when they're on the front of the train. They're just like more balanced. But it is what it is. It can go either way. And then of course we can flick the switch and it can go back on the main line. I do like it going this way on the main line because this grade right here is so gradual. But once it makes it to the top of the grade with ease, when there's fewer cars, it goes down this grade, which of course is a lot more intense. So I don't know how it would do going up that grade. It probably would do just fine, especially with only 3 cars. But when you double the length of the train, it might not like that grade because there's a lot more weight. So yeah, we can have this train going either way, which I think works out quite nicely for all the switches here in the city. Yeah, so there we go. The new tunnel is tested and working for the high-speed passenger train. It would work with other cargo trains and stuff. I'm not sure about that green and black train with the light kit in it, because that thing has like a super big nose. Maybe if I want to run that on this particular line, I'll have to widen the tunnel, but I don't think so. I like the scale of this tunnel. I think it works out quite well. If I did want to widen it, it would be easy just to remove this module right here and widen that. So yeah, I guess I have to rip out 32 studs here, add some openings to the arches, and then just continue working on these modules, but really happy to see the train functioning here quite smoothly. Woohoo! It's a great day. Nice. So everybody, there we go. I hope you enjoyed this video. I think we made some pretty tremendous progress there with the campground and trains. Please remember to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for some more great stuff coming out in the near future, and have yourselves a fantastic day. Bye for now.